Hello and welcome everyone to today's Orbus Live. Today we'll be talking about how IKEA is leveraging OrbusInfinity. We'll give everyone just a minute or two to jumping on from other meetings and whatnot. And we'll now bring in a second our guest speaker, Anke from IKEA, to introduce herself and get going. Today we're going to go through a short presentation initially of how Anke and the team at IKEA have been getting on and their process working with alongside Orbus over the past few years, and then we'll go through a bit of a Q&A between myself and Anke, and then we'll wrap up with any final questions. Please do send any questions you've got through the chat today. Any unanswered questions, if we don't have time, not quite sure on timings, we will be directing to a forum in our community, but we'll get around to that later on. So I guess to start with, here is Anke to get started.
Thank you, Jack, for having me here. My name is Anke Tersteegen. I'm the architecture leader for business architecture, and I was heavily involved from the very beginning to embark on the iServer and now OrbusInfinity journey.
Perfect. Thanks, Anke. We'll bring up your screen in a second, but as you're saying, thanks for that introduction. Just brief intro for anyone who doesn't know myself. Should have probably done it before I brought you in. How selfish. I'm the EMEA team lead for customer success. So been working alongside Anke and the team for a while now. So look forward to telling your story. Anke, anything else you'd like to add or introductions before I bring your slides on?
No, let's get started. Okay, let's talk a little bit on our migration journey. But before we go there, I would like to introduce to you why we have chosen to go for a repository-based tool at all. And that leads us back to 2017, actually, when we were a little bit desperate seeking a repository-based tool. We were coming from an end-of-life other tool, which was meant to be very complicated to be handled with. We have had thousands of architecture artifacts in Visio, Excel sheets, Word documents, PowerPoints, and I think some of you might be familiar with this kind of situation. We had no repository to turn to. The only repository that we had at that point in time was our architecture SharePoint, but with very mixed parts of documents. So we wanted to go for repository-based, having stored everything in a repository so we are able to reuse our architecture artifacts. And also we have had our meta model, which was quite not standardized. It was leaning on in a little bit of TOGAF, a little bit of BizBock, and a lot of IKEA. So there we wanted to be more streamlined as well, and by this also establish the common ways of working. And last but not least, we were aiming towards the single source of truth here and not trying to find some valid truth in maybe a set of PowerPoints, not knowing which one was the latest. So this is then that was the situation we were in. And why have we chosen iServer 2017 at that point in time? We had some material that was already stored in Visio and Excel, SharePoint lists, and we could easily make reuse of those things, getting that easily into the repository. On the other hand, also most of the architects were familiar with Visio already, and Visio is the modeling engine in iServer, and we were easygoing with that one. It's embedded in Microsoft, so it's nothing weird for many people to have also documents in Word and PowerPoint, but have this repository based. And it was very, very easy at that point in time, and it still is, to configure and adjust the meta model. Since our thinking was to make it attractive for the architects, we should not do a big change of the meta model from the very beginning. So maybe we can transform on what we know already into the tool, and then more and more come back to standards. So the status quo before migration was very much, we already migrated to iServer 2017. It was a hosted solution. We needed, and that was due to our choice. We were a little bit shaky in the decision for our Microsoft tenants, since we just have undertaken a big reorganization of whole IKEA franchise system. And there we were a little bit shaky, and we decided we want to go for the tool. And this is, we then take the hosted solution instead. But, you know, it's quite cumbersome, access through remote desktop. As we were at that point in time around 100 users, content creators. At that point in time, we have to have duplicate licenses for Microsoft Office and Visio Professional. We didn't activate the portal. We didn't manage to make the content accessible for the wider audience. And we have had still a quite customized meta model, and also customized Visio templates going forward. And since we are coming with a customized meta model, we also have had quite some customized views here that we were working with to create some transparency. And one of the things that was a real challenge for us was that we have had an activity ongoing to streamline the meta model more to standards, towards TOGAF, towards more solid base, and not having our own meta model always on the side. So this streamlining activity was still ongoing when we started to think about the migration. And what was it at the end that led us to do the migration and to get fully onboarded on the, for MyServer 365 now, OrbusInfinity? It is mainly these 4 points that you see on the screen. It is about that we have a true SaaS implementation. By this, already from the very beginning, have an improved accessibility for stakeholders of architecture artifacts. We have now the native document storage in SharePoint, and also improved reporting. So that is what triggered us to undertake the migration. And if you would like to see now the migration, our migration in some figures, it is about that we took about, from the first kickoff, after all the contractual parts were sorted out, we took 3 months to do the migration. And that the amount was pretty much, we have had 4 libraries, we have had 19 customized templates, Visio templates that we needed to take care of. It was 2,700 diagrams to be migrated, 42,000 relationships, and 19,000 objects. This sounds to me still quite a lot if I see it now in the aftermath. At that point in time, when we started the migration, we have had 100 users. Those were content creators. We didn't have any really content viewers into that. And I think that is pretty much in. Just as a remark, today we have 280 users, and 110 are content creators about at the moment. Yeah, I think that is just in short what our migration was about and why we were going that road.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anke, for that. Great start there, and a bit of a good summary to get into things. You mentioned about the deployment process. Obviously, a lot of authors to train in your case, and content creators to get into the platform, and a lot of kind of reviewing of, okay, what do we bring over, how do we work, and what do we do things. What did the deployment look like for you? Can you maybe tell us a little bit about the process and kind of how you kind of made that transition a little bit?
Yeah, first of all, we needed to know what OrbusInfinity is all about and what is the difference. So we have had some pre-learnings before migration to be able to see what is coming in front of us. And then when we have had the kickoff, we have had quite some configuration workshops together with the Orbus consultants, who were guiding us through the whole things that needs to be migrated. So that was a complete rundown from top to bottom, that we don't miss any important configuration into that. Then we also, during the whole time, we have had some regular check-up meetings to see where we are in the progress, and also when we needed to do some ad hoc design decisions that revealed a little bit what we have been decided before. So that was happening also, since what we originally thought what should be migrated was extended later on, due to the fact that we were in between this change of or adjustments of the meta model. So we thought we would be finished before the migration, but we were not. We also had 10 user trainings, and what I'm talking now is all the parts within the 3 months that we had. 10 user trainings for the about 100 people. And you see also from the amount of people, I think I forgot to tell that when we started with iServer 2017, we were about 25 domain architects working with the tool. But this increased quite a lot to bring all the solution architects in there as well. So that is why we have that many more people that needs to be part of the migration as well. And we also had an admin training for the ones that were supposed to administrate then OrbusInfinity.
That's great, thanks. And yeah, a good point you make about the pre-learning. I think it's important, and one thing we try and advise to customers, both getting deployed in general with OrbusInfinity and especially migrating from iServer, I think is about looking at what the benefits of OrbusInfinity are, and taking the opportunity to look at what content you move over, an opportunity to cleanse and look at, not just simply moving over from iServer, but how you're going to get the most out of the new tool that you're moving to. Would you kind of agree with that on your side?
Yeah, exactly. And I wished that we would have learned a little bit more from the very beginning. So we were thinking we know how Infinity works, deriving that from some parts from iServer, and that was not the case. So I would have wished to get more insights of Infinity before we do the migration, so that would have led to better design decisions at all. So it would have been good for us to spend a little bit more time in learning how everything goes.
You mentioned, obviously we've gone through the training, you mentioned kind of working closely with consultancy and the professional services team. How was that experience for you?
I think that was really, really good, since we perceived everything as knowledgeable and guiding as well. So we were never left alone at any point in time. And now why we also thought about the migration is getting closer to our stakeholders. Now we are even still working on getting even more closer and adjust some reports out of the box solutions, or create our own reports that we need to support our stakeholders a little bit better, which are then partly in the business and partly in the more digital world. So this is really going well, and we have now continuous support. We are aiming for a weekly meeting. We cannot hold this all the time, but this is on our side, as we are also quite busy. But we get the support we needed there, whatever question we might have. So we can bring that up in our weekly meeting, and this is really, really good.
Great. And would you say, obviously, you had the opportunity during the initial migration period to work with several consultants? We needed more than one to help with the various training groups, but there was kind of one or two key consultants that worked on that initial data and that have followed through and that continue to work with you. Would you say that being able to kind of have that continuity has helped as well?
Yeah, I think that is quite important to have during the migration, the continuity of having one or two consultants that you can always return to. And it's good if you can just continue from there, but I mean, there's also understanding if there's a need for change, then for sure that needs to happen as well.
Great. And now, having gone a little bit further down the line with those weekly meetings, with the work with the consultants, what benefits have you seen post migration to moving to Infinity thus far?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit that we see is that we have a web-based repository I mean, architects were spending quite some time of getting logged on into the remote desktop, started to work, and now it's just a click into the web and then you are there. And what we have not utilized at all, this is more a sound of a future, but with what we see right now is we improve the ability to integrate also with other systems in a good way. It's not that we have been doing that already, but we see from the out-of-the-box solutions that there are good ways for us so that we have a good integration ability as well. And I shortly mentioned it already, the out-of-the-box reports and integration solutions, they are really so valuable also in guiding us partly to improve the content in our repository as well.
Fantastic. And on the side of sharing the content, you mentioned the reports, and I guess the one key difference was starting to work with SharePoint, both to collaborate, to collect data and to share it. How's that change and that move been?
Yeah, I think it will go even more. We have our OrbusInfinity related SharePoint, where we can show off SharePoint pages with content from OrbusInfinity. And I think that is quite valuable, also to put some text around the content, just to explain for stakeholders who are not used to working with architecture what they're currently seeing. And I think that is a good way forward in all regards. When it comes to more digital, there we are more into the Confluence spaces, but there we could at least showcase some of the diagram content with the embedded SharePoint files.
Great. And obviously a lot of what we've been talking about is kind of content and the wider picture. Would you be able to maybe give a summary of the areas that you started to focus on specifically with Infinity in terms of use cases, and maybe a little bit of a picture of where the plans are next?
Yes, I can. From the business architecture point of view, we have had a configuration already set in iServer before we migrated for capability-based planning. And this is now we are taking to the next step in Infinity to provide not only the possibility for the architects of working with capability-based planning, but also see that the stakeholders see also the results of that planning and can access that easily. That is our current ways of working. And on the other hand, on the more application and IT architecture side, we're working quite a lot on creating the right sized information for application portfolios as well. That is quite a big thing as well.
Excellent. So yeah, we've gone through a bit of where you've been and a little bit of an insight into where you want to go next. How have you, another question, how have you engaged with internally, both a little bit with the audience, because that change of spreading that knowledge of we're not on this portal, we're not in iServer anymore, we're Infinity, and also on a stakeholder level, how have you engaged with your stakeholders on the reports and the information you're starting to gather?
Yeah, before the migration, we exchanged information with our stakeholders mainly by copying something either into PowerPoint for presentation purpose or copied that into an email and sent out. Since we haven't activated the portal at all, and now we are just more or less providing a link to the SharePoint where the stakeholders can find the information, may it be on our capability model, may it be on applications, whatever, then we can point the stakeholders towards mainly a SharePoint. They don't even need to connect to the repository.
Great. So there's a bit of a picture of your journey. In terms of kind of more of closing remarks, how would you summarize the experience you've had of that migration and working with Infinity over the past year or two?
I think it was quite a good experience, even though during the migration, as I said, I mean, we have had the challenges with timing, and some heavy pressure also came from our architecture managers at that point in time to get this done finally and don't wait for something. So it was a little bit of pressure that we have been thinking, and as I said, would have been good to take a little bit more time to understand Infinity better before we really have had the productive migration. But all in all, it went really, really good. And given the circumstance that what we didn't do, I think we have managed to go through really, really good and really fast.
Excellent. Really appreciate that feedback from you. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up? Any extra kind of comments you'd like to pass on?
No, I'm personally quite happy that we have OrbusInfinity right now for the daily work, for the daily business, to turn to Infinity easily and don't need to do additional means into that.
Excellent. Well, Anke, thanks very much for joining us. We will wrap up there as we are running short on time. So anyone else who has any questions, I have a QR code I'm going to bring up on screen now. I'll just drag this here. So anyone else who would like to go to our community, that QR code will send a link to community.orbussoftware.com. That is our online forum, an ability to interact with ourselves and the wider user base that uses OrbusInfinity. We have a forum set up on there. You'll have to sign up if you haven't already. So once you get into there, sign up, create a user. You can go to a forum to direct any questions to us. Anke will be taking a look over that forum over the coming week or so, once people have had a chance to look into it. So any questions, do direct them there. And Anke, thanks very much for joining us and sharing the IKEA story with OrbusInfinity.
Thank you.